Welcome to An Alternate Hugh. I'm Hugh Anderson, and this is some of what caught my attention this week. I couldn't resist sharing this essay from Bill Bonner, a noted social and investment commentator. The following should be filed under, quote, critical thinking, unquote, or don't be a sheep. Our species can be very gullible. All it takes to throw our common sense is basically repetition and lots of echoes. You'll recall that it was the Greeks who first gave the world democracy, from the Greek demokratia, literally rule by the people. And yes, it was those very same Greeks who put their own beloved Socrates to death by a majority vote of 361 to 140. Today, democracy is a cherished tenet of the West. It's woven into the civic religion, sewn into the social fabric. Men march off eagerly to fight for it, to proselytize it, and to die in forgotten ditches, defending it. At least, that's what they believe they're doing. As usual, the poor saps have been duped. Herewith, a little historical context. The phrase, making the world safe for democracy, was actually a marketing slogan coined back in the 1910s as a way to sell the Great War, otherwise known as World War I. Weary from their own disastrous Civil War just a few decades earlier, in which hundreds of thousands of young men gave their lives, Americans were mostly inward-looking at the time. They wanted little to do with what they largely saw as a European affair. Polls might have indicated no appetite for battle, but the nation's politicians were nonetheless starved for military misadventure. They sensed big profits abroad, both in manufacturing armaments and making onerous bank loans to foreign lands. Sure, the nation would have to fill tank and trench with warm, young bodies, but very few of those soldiers would carry senatorial surnames along with their rifles, aka connected guys. So if you remember this lyric, some folks are born to wave the flag, who, they're red, white, and blue, and when the band plays Hail to the Chief, ooh, they point that cannon at you, Lord. Fortunate Son by Creedence Clearwater Revival. And so after a public relations campaign of truly epic proportions, America marched off to war, wrapped in the delusion that she had previously been sold. Now, Eddie Bernays, the man who coined the phrase and thus peddled the war to America, made a fortune for his efforts. He was even invited by Woodrow Wilson to attend the Paris Peace Conference in 1919 as a show of gratitude for his services. There, Bernays learned the full impact of his democracy slogan. An obviously bright fellow, the surreal experience caused him to think, if people will line up to kill one another under the influence of a mere marketing campaign, they could surely be convinced to do, say, and buy just about anything. Now, Bernays was right. In fact, he wrote a series of books detailing his insights. They included Crystallizing Public Opinion in 1923, a Public Relations Council in 1927, and a neat little number titled Propaganda, 1928, in which Bernays laid out the blueprint for mass social and psychological manipulation. Mass social and psychological manipulation. Can you say social media? But wait, this gets better. The collective works went on to become huge successes, and the favorite of none other than Joseph Goebbels, Reich Minister for Propaganda in Nazi Germany, between 1933 and 1945. Now, Bernays himself, writing in his 1965 autobiography, recalls a dinner at home in 1933 where Carl von Wiegand, foreign correspondent of the Hearst newspapers and an old hand at interpreting Europe and just returned from Germany, was telling Bernays about Goebbels and his propaganda plans to consolidate Nazi power. Goebbels had shown Wiegand his propaganda library, the best Wiegand had ever seen. Wiegand said Goebbels was using Bernays' crystallizing public opinion as a basis for his destructive campaign against the Jews of Germany. This shocked Bernays. Obviously, the attack on the Jews of Germany was no emotional outburst of the Nazis, but a deliberate, planned campaign. It's indeed chilling to think of such a heinous undertaking as being engineered, blueprinted, premeditated, and carried out according to some kind of script. And yet, there it is, in Bernays' own words, the father of propaganda. Having acquired somewhat of a tainted reputation by association, propaganda itself underwent a strategic rebranding after World War II. But make no mistake, the very same métier thrives to this day under the more socially palatable designation, public relations. still a ruse by any other name. Could we be so stupid again, wonders the gentle reader? Might the mob still be swayed by what Charles Mackay termed extraordinary popular delusions and the madness of crowds? Why, of course. That's the nature of the mob. Whether in love, finance, politics, or any other matter, man is wont to be convinced, assured, persuaded, often against his own best interests. Few are the absurdities in which he will not take refuge, invest his hard-earned capital, or squander his morality. All he needs is a good story, something to arrest his imagination and cauterize his capacity for reason. The Roman poet Juvenal recognized as much when he mocked the bread and circuses stratagem almost 2 millennia ago. In his satire X, he referred to the Annona, a kind of grain dole, and the famous circus games held in the Colosseum and elsewhere, as designed to keep the unthinking population fed and happy. So as we applaud or boo the modern-day versions of bread and circuses, just remember everything old is new again. So it's up to us to be discerning about what we consume and what we believe to be true. Truth-taking or truth-seeking takes work. That's it for this week. I'm Hugh Anderson. I hope this caused you to think. And if you thought it was thoughtful, think again. And better yet, send it to somebody who needs to think a little more. That's it for this week. We'll talk soon.